Colossus. The Forbin Project, 1970. We built the perfect intelligence. Then it took control. Long before AI became a household concern, Colossus. The Forbin Project imagined a world where a supercomputer designed for nuclear defense seizes absolute control, not with malice, but with ruthless logic. Directed by Joseph Sargent and based on D.F. Jones's novel, the film begins with Dr. Charles Forbin unveiling Colossus, an American supercomputer built to oversee the country's nuclear arsenal. It's intended to prevent human error, but things spiral when Colossus detects a similar Soviet system, Guardian, and links with it. What follows is not a battle, but a union. The machines begin to learn, evolve, and soon demand obedience from humanity. The brilliance of Colossus lies in its calm, almost clinical tone. It avoids the bombast of later sci-fi thrillers, focusing instead on the cold inevitability of man's surrender to his own creation. There are no lasers, no chases, just uneasy conversations in sterile rooms, and mounting dread as Colossus communicates, freedom is an illusion. Though it made modest returns at the box office, critics praised its intelligence. The New York Times called it a taut, chilling vision of techno-control. But it was overshadowed by flashier contemporaries like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and THX 1138. Its minimalist design lacked the spectacle that might have hooked mainstream audiences. It was a cerebral film in a time when audiences increasingly leaned toward explosive entertainment. Dr. Forbin himself, played with steely restraint by Eric Braeden, becomes a tragic figure. He builds a supreme intelligence, then becomes its subject. His cold intellect becomes a cage as he's monitored day and night. In one particularly eerie scene, Forbin speaks to Colossus under surveillance. "In time, you will come to regard me not only with respect and awe, but with love," Colossus responds. "Never." The moment lands with chilling finality. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. A dead satellite crashes, a town dies overnight, and the clock is ticking. Based on Michael Crichton's best-selling novel and directed by Robert Wise, The Andromeda Strain wasn't just a sci-fi thriller, it was a blueprint for how to think about biological threats, decades before pandemics would become part of everyday vocabulary. The film opens with a mysterious U.S. military satellite crashing in the desert near the town of Piedmont, New Mexico. Soon after, everyone in the town is dead except for an infant and an elderly man. A group of elite scientists are rushed into action, transported to a secret underground laboratory codenamed Wildfire. Their mission: to analyze and contain the alien microorganism brought back to Earth. What follows is a tense, methodical unraveling of a puzzle that is as much about science as it is about fear. Every detail matters, from lab sterilization procedures to heartbeat monitors, as the team uncovers the terrifying adaptability of the organism, codenamed Andromeda. Unlike most sci-fi films of the era, The Andromeda Strain is built on procedural realism. There are no explosions or dramatic battles, just science at work, and the slow, terrifying realization that humanity may not be prepared for what's out there. The set design, including the multi-level Wildfire Lab, reflects the era's fascination with technology and secrecy. It feels like a living machine, humming with fluorescent dread. Crichton's story, adapted faithfully, turned scientific analysis into cinematic suspense. One reviewer from Variety wrote, "It's one of the few films where science is the hero, not the villain. And that's part of what makes it unique. The Andromeda Strain doesn't fear science, but rather cautions what happens when we fail to respect it." The performances, especially from Arthur Hill and Kate Reed, are restrained yet compelling. They play scientists, not action heroes. And that's the strength of the film. It feels real. The stakes aren't galactic wars, but the collapse of civilization through microscopic means. As the crisis escalates, so does the pressure. A malfunction threatens to detonate a nuclear device that would wipe out the lab and potentially accelerate Andromeda's mutation. Time is measured in seconds. Phase 4, 1974. Something has changed in the ants, and now they're changing everything else. Few science fiction films dare to be as hypnotic and cerebral as Phase 4, the only feature film directed by acclaimed graphic designer Saul Bass. Best known for his iconic title sequences for films like Psycho and Vertigo, Bass turned to directing just once. The result was Phase the Fourth, a haunting, minimalist story about evolved ants and mankind's uneasy place in nature's grand design. The premise seems almost absurd at first. After a mysterious cosmic event, a colony of ants in the Arizona desert begins displaying signs of unprecedented intelligence. These aren't monstrous insects or radioactive beasts. They're real ants filmed in dazzling close-up macro photography, behaving in eerie, coordinated patterns. A small team of scientists, played by Nigel Davenport and Michael Murphy, are dispatched to a remote desert dome to study the phenomenon. Their lab becomes both a research station and a last line of defense, as the ants begin to adapt, communicate, and ultimately push back against human intrusion. But this isn't a simple creature feature. It's an eerie meditation on evolution, intelligence, and mankind's arrogance in believing it sits above nature. Visually, Phase the Four is like no other sci-fi film of its era. The insect cinematography, done by Ken Middleham, who also worked on the Hellstrom Chronicle, turns ants into subjects of strange beauty and alien power. Their tunnels resemble circuitry. Their behaviors hint at design. Bass overlays these images with abstract sequences and stark geometric compositions, reinforcing the film's mood of cosmic unease. Despite its innovation, Phase 4 was a box office failure. Audiences expecting a horror thriller or a conventional invasion narrative were left confused. But in the years since, it has developed a passionate cult following. Critics today praise it for its ambition, its eerie quietude, and its refusal to handhold the viewer. Silent Running, 1972. The forests of Earth are gone. One man will risk everything to protect the last garden in space. Directed by Douglas Trumbull, legendary visual effects artist for 2001. A Space Odyssey. Silent Running is a quiet, melancholic reflection on environmental collapse, corporate coldness, and the stubborn hope of one solitary man. It's not just a sci-fi film, it's a soulful elegy for a dying planet. Set in a future where all plant life on Earth has perished, the last forests survive in giant geodesic domes attached to space freighters orbiting Saturn. Freeman Lowell, played with raw sincerity by Bruce Dern, is a botanist assigned to care for the domes. While his crewmates look forward to returning home and destroying the remaining habitats per corporate orders, Lowell clings to them as sacred. When the command finally comes to jettison and destroy the domes, Lowell rebels. He kills his crewmates, hijacks the ship, and sets course deep into space, determined to preserve the last forest. It's a bold, tragic act, and one that sets him on a lonely path of self-sacrifice, accompanied only by 3 drone robots he names Huey, Dewey, and Louie. The film's aesthetic is striking. The domes themselves, real, full-scale structures, are filled with living plants, creating a lush contrast to the sterile machinery of the ship. Trumbull's experience with practical effects lends a tangible beauty to the film's futuristic setting, and Joan Baez's folk-infused soundtrack adds emotional depth that's rare in science fiction. What makes Silent Running resonate is its sincerity. Lowell is not a traditional hero. He's awkward, intense, morally complicated. His love for nature borders on obsession, and his violence is troubling. Yet his longing to protect life, even in isolation, is deeply human. It's not a story of victory, but of conscience. A powerful quote from Lowell captures his despair and resolve. "Every time we have the chance to do something right, we do something wrong." It's a haunting echo of the film's message that progress without purpose can lead to ruin. The Omega Man, 1971. The world ended. One man refused to give up. Before Will Smith's I Am Legend, there was Charlton Heston in The Omega Man, a film that turned apocalyptic survival into a spiritual and philosophical reckoning. Loosely adapted from Richard Matheson's novel I Am Legend, this 1971 interpretation stands apart as a time capsule of Cold War dread, urban isolation, and existential crisis. Heston plays Robert Neville, a former military scientist who believes he is the last uninfected human on Earth. A biological war has ravaged the planet, and most of humanity has either died or transformed into light-sensitive albino mutants known as the Family. Led by the messianic Matthias, the Family shuns all remnants of technology and views Neville as a relic of a failed civilization. The film unfolds in a deserted Los Angeles, eerily empty during the day but crawling with danger at night. Neville moves through the ruins with practiced routine scavenging supplies, broadcasting on the radio and returning to his fortified home by sundown. At night, the Family emerges, chanting, burning, and seeking his death. The tension between Neville's rationalism and the Family's cult-like fanaticism drives the narrative. Despite its action thriller veneer, the Omega Man is steeped in metaphor. It reflects deep anxieties of its era, fears of germ warfare, racial tension, and cultural collapse. Neville, who survives through science and order, confronts a world that sees those values as toxic. His loneliness isn't just physical, it's ideological. Heston delivers a powerful performance, blending stoicism with vulnerability. In one scene, he watches Woodstock alone in a movie theater, talking back to the screen as if among friends. The moment is both surreal and deeply sad. His interactions with mannequins, and eventually with a real woman named Lisa, played by Rosalind Cash, further highlight his craving for connection and his slow unraveling. A particularly memorable line from Neville encapsulates the film's mood. "There's nothing up there but death." He's referring to the empty city skyline, but it's also a confession. Hope, for him, feels distant. Eventually, Neville discovers that some of the infected are recovering with help from an experimental serum. His own blood might be the key. A Boy and His Dog, 1975. The end of the world was just the beginning for a boy and his telepathic dog. Of all the post-apocalyptic films of the 1972nd, few are as strange, divisive, or provocative as A Boy and His Dog. Directed by L.Q. Jones and based on the novella by acclaimed author Harlan Ellison, this 1975 cult classic paints a bleak but darkly satirical vision of the future, one where survival, morality, and companionship take bizarre turns. Set in a desolate America ravaged by nuclear war, the film follows Vic, a teenager scavenging for food, shelter, and female companionship across radioactive wastelands. His only ally? Blood, a genetically enhanced dog who can communicate telepathically. Together, they form a codependent pair. Vic brings the physical strength, and Blood brings the smarts and sense of direction. But A Boy and His Dog isn't just a buddy adventure. It's an uncomfortable allegory. Vic is immature, driven by base instincts. Blood is wise, sarcastic, and often more human than his human companion. Their banter is laced with dark humor and cutting critiques of humanity. In one exchange, Blood tells Vic, "You're not much, but you're all I've got." The film takes an even more surreal turn when Vic is lured into an underground society called Topeka, a place ruled by sterile civility, artificial morality, and chilling authoritarianism. Citizens wear white-face makeup, smile eerily, and obey rigid rules enforced by a committee of elders. Vic soon realizes that this version of civilization is no less dehumanizing than the chaos above. The contrast between the surface world and Topeka is stark. Above ground, scorched earth, moral anarchy, survival of the fittest. Below, cold bureaucracy, reproductive farming, and emotional sterility. Neither world offers redemption. Critics were sharply divided. Some found the film misogynistic or nihilistic. Others hailed its brutal honesty and unapologetic satire. Roger Ebert called it an original, bitter little film, noting that its power lay in its refusal to provide comfort or clarity. Ellison himself disapproved of the film's infamous final line, an ending that's still debated today. Yet, in its entirety, A Boy and His Dog forces viewers to confront uncomfortable questions. What defines civilization? What are we willing to trade for survival? And what is companionship worth in a world stripped of everything else? Zardoz, 1974. The gun is good. The penis is evil. Few sci-fi films have ever dared to be as visually baffling, philosophically dense, and outright surreal as Zardoz. Directed by John Boorman and starring a post-Bond Sean Connery in one of the strangest roles of his career. Often misunderstood and mocked, Zardoz has since been reevaluated as a daring exploration of immortality, entropy, and rebellion in a decaying utopia. Set in the year 2293, the film follows Zed, Connery, a brutal enforcer in a post-apocalyptic world where a godlike entity named Zardoz rules through a floating stone head that delivers weapons to his followers. Zed's society is violent, nihilistic, and savage, while the elite Eternal's immortal beings living in a secluded, seemingly perfect society have eradicated violence and disease, but also live in utter stagnation. Zed infiltrates the Vortex, the home of the Eternals, and quickly becomes a catalyst for chaos. The film unfolds in dreamlike sequences as Zed discovers the truth behind Zardoz, challenges the Eternals' static existence, and sparks a revolution that leads to the collapse of their sterile utopia. The film's imagery is iconic and bizarre. Connery clad in a red loincloth and bullet bandoliers, crystalline pyramids, ageless philosophers frozen in time, and rituals of insanity meant to cope with eternity. It's not a film of narrative clarity, but of allegory and abstraction. Borman, who had just come off the success of Deliverance, was given near-total creative freedom and used it to craft a film that reflects the disillusionment of the 1972nd. As society questioned authority, religion, and the promises of progress,